recording. Yeah, going about to
Hello,
super
hello.
like going inside yourself.
Matrix.
Exactly. Okay, let's get out of that. Okay, so let's pull up Epic Button Game. Where did I pull it up? Don't look at that. Cool. So for this assignment, we're going to build a button game that just will show how many times the button's been clicked, but no matter what screen you open, it should show that. Okay? Cool. So let's start. Let's make our app file guy.
You're already in a folder. Right?
I'm in a folder, yeah. So I created a new folder, called it Epic Button, and that's where we're at currently. Okay? So let me open up this in Sublime. Okay, so you can see in our folder all we have is a blank app.js. Okay. So I'm going to go ahead, create that package.json file. Initializing our project here, which for some reason it's been taking a really long time. Okay. So now, what are we going to need for this assignment? All right, we're going to need Express, because that's how we're going to handle our routes. All right, so let's make a list, right? So we're going to need Express. We're going to need socket.io. And let's start with that and see, and as we come across, we can figure out what else we need.
You don't need the embedded JavaScript stuff.
Ah, we do. Thank you. Yes, we do need that. All right, there we go.
When you click the button, is there going to be post app or get?
So we'll show you. That's a good question, right? So sockets runs differently than normal HTTP requests. So it's actually not going to be post or get data. Okay, so it's going to be a little bit different. Okay, so if we look, all right, let's come back to here, make sure. All right, so we got all of our stuff. Okay. All right, so let's start by requiring Express. Cool. Now we're going to say var app equals Express initialized, right? So all this is doing when we return, when we require Express, right? In Express, there's a module.exports that gives us a function, right? Here, we're invoking that function so that we can now access what that function returns. All right, so that's all that we've done there. Okay, so now we're going to do a few other things. We're going to say app.setViews is going to be in the directory name plus /views. Okay, so we don't have a /views yet, so let's go ahead and go make that. Make dir views. Let's get inside of that, and we'll make our EJS file there. Okay, so now if we look in here, good, we got that, and we're gonna set our view engine to EJS. Cool. Does that make sense what we've done so far?
Yes.
Cool. So I think if we look in here, yeah, so you can see, the nice thing is on these, they're going to tell you exactly how all of this is happening, right? But that's just in case you didn't understand what's going on there. That's what we're going to do, right? We can come back and look at this if we need to. All right. So now let's go ahead and just get our first route. Response. All right. And all we're going to do is say response. Actually, we're going to do the shortcut here because it's nicer. So we're going to say res.send index. Okay. Now, what is this index referring to?
Index EJS?
Exactly, index EJS. So through this views, when we set our views in our view engine, right, that's going in, and that's what in the file that it's going to get. Yeah.
What's view engine?
It's basically it's creating settings so that it knows that the view engine that we're using is going to be EJS, right? So it's telling our app, which is this function, that our view engine is going to be EJS, which we installed as a node module, so that when it's building up these pages, it knows how it's building up these pages. Does that make sense? Okay, here, let's do this. Okay, let's go and see if we have. So if we go into the documentation here, alright, so we're setting application setting properties, right? So we're setting views, which is views, the directory where the template files are located, right? So that's what we did with that first line, which makes sense. We said views, and then we appended dir name to views. Okay, so if we were to do this, let's console.log dir name. Okay, so if we run this file real quick, I don't think we'll yeah, we ran into something. Let's see. What did we not do? What was our Harrison? Cannot find module, express, button view, views, app. I'm not sure where that's getting. I think there might be a typo somewhere. But this dir name, it will literally, it's like the same as doing this. It's going to give you the relative, oh, that's why. I'm not in the right one. There we go. Nice mistake. There you go. So that's the dir name, right? So it's appending /views to the directory name that I'm currently in. So that's what that first piece does, right? It tells the file system where to get the views. The second says in view engine, the template engine to use. For example, if you want to use the Pug template engine, you'd say app.set view engine Pug. Okay? Now Pug is another templating engine like EJS, just a different module. So all we're doing is telling our app, we're making the application setting property know that the view engine that we're using in this project is EJS. Okay? Alright, so let's get rid of that. Cool. So now we can say app.listen, and we'll give it a port number. And that looks good, so let's come over here. The annoying thing about EJS is that I can't do that. But I believe if we just change this, we should be able to. Alright, epic button game. We'll just have an H1 real quick that says press the button. Cool. So now if we turn on our server, okay, now let's come back over here. Go to 6789. And I think I have another server running. Nope, I turned it off. Okay, let's see if in index.ejs. Make sure we're in the right spot. Okay. Interesting. Where did I do this? So I just loaded it.
Do we need path?
We can use path.
Well, we don't need it yet, right?
All that path does, so when we use path, so we can do that. So we say path, and maybe that will prevent this from happening. Instead of, so here we would say path.join, and then instead of concatenating these, we can just put a comma. There you go. And that does the same thing. But for some reason, the index file that it's loading
Do you need to put
is a
an
different
end
one.
on the end of your function?
Where?
Like around line 10 there. So like res that end or something.
No. So we do need to do that in Node when we're actually specifying the contents of the file that we're writing, right? But in this case, no, we don't.
I fixed it for me.
I fixed it for you?
Without render instead of save.
Oh, yeah, my bad. I didn't even catch that. Yeah, that should be render. There we go.
Yay!
Hey, good catch, good catch. Okay, so let's go back and look at, okay, cool. So now our page has that set up. So now what we're gonna do is we're going to say, we're gonna set this equal to a variable so that we can reference it. And we're gonna say socket.io, and then we're gonna listen on that server. Okay? So once again, we're requiring, we have this socket.io module in our node modules, and we're requiring it and telling it to listen on this server that we've created here. Does that make sense? Okay. So now, we get to start writing all of our cool, fun code, right? All the emit stuff. Okay. So if we look down here, let's walk through this. All right. So there's a few things that we can do, right? So everything that we, whenever, right, it says whenever a connection event happens, the connection event is built in to run the following code, okay? So this is going to be, all of our code is going to go inside of this function that we have here, okay? So we say io.sockets, I believe that's a dot on, right? Yep. Connection, and then we have a function that has a socket. Cool. So now everything that we do, that's not spelled right. So now all our other emits and listeners are going to happen inside of this. Okay? So everything that we do is going to be inside of this guy. So we can say the classic is, okay? So let's go ahead and refresh our page. No, nothing's happened yet. Okay? That's because we need to go to this side and put in some JavaScript that will connect, okay? Now I always just come into this and basically copy and paste this section. Makes it really easy. Okay. So what's happening? So all this one right here, right? Oops. This line right here is going and getting jQuery for us, right? Just to make our lives easier as we manipulate the DOM, okay? This file right here is getting the client-side version of socket.io, okay? So when we do var socket equals io.connect, this is not something that comes pre-packed with jQuery, right? We need to have this part of it. We need to have this, otherwise this isn't going to work. And I believe I also forgot to do this. Okay. All right, so now, all right, what did we break? Object prototype, only. Okay, let's go take a look and figure out what we've done. I'm going to move this above these. Oh. I'm not using path, so I need to add that and see if that fixed it. Cool. Alright, so now you've noticed that we have this you are using sockets console.log, right? Because we've now connected with the server. Okay, I'm going to split these here for us so we can see them side by side. Okay, so what we've done here is now when we load this page, we make, this line right here makes that connection with sockets, right? So io.sockets to on connection, this runs and connects with that. So now that connection has been made, so you're using sockets, okay? So if we come over here and open up this and do the same thing, okay? We should see another one, right? So now we now have two people that have logged in and are on our socket, okay? So our server has two connections. I remember the earlier diagram where we had the socket, the on, and then all the pointers to different clients. So at this point, we now have two clients that are connected, okay? All right. So now let's now add our button, epic button, all right. Let's do a little styling to make our button look fun. We'll say background, background color red. Maybe do like 5 pixel padding or something. Okay, just kind of take a look. Cool. So now we have this button that doesn't do anything yet, which is fine. So now what we need to do is we need to add something that will emit to our server. Okay, so let's go ahead and get our button function. Okay. So what we're going to do is we're going to emit, and now this part becomes important, right? And I'm just gonna, let's see, we'll just pass in, say data is 1. Okay, so this guy right here needs to match what we write on our server side. Okay, so it's emitting button clicked. Now over here, in order for us to work here, we need to say socket.on button clicked. Oops. Okay. All right. So that means this will get triggered whenever one of our clients emits button clicked. Does that make sense? Okay. So that's an important thing to make sure that when you're matching up or when you're trying to send data from one side to the other, these names have to match, right? So if we, let's see, let's go back over to the example. It doesn't have a good full example. Okay, so we're fine. Okay. All right, so once we do this, right, now we're ready to send something back, right? So in this case, we want to send them the number of times that the button was clicked so it'll update, right? And now, in order to track the button clicks, we're just going to create a count that starts at 0 right here, okay? Now, let's go look. Now we have, all right, we talked about this earlier. So we have 3 different ways to, or 3 different versions of sending information out to our client. So one, right, emit sends data back to the specific client that we had, which we don't want, right? We want everybody to see when a button's clicked. We have broadcast, which is everybody but the person that clicked the button, which we also don't want because they should see it. So we're going to use this socket.broadcast.emit, right, which is a full broadcast sending the data to every single person that is connected. Okay. Alright. Okay, so we're going to say, as we look here, io.emit. So we'll call this update button. Now, the data that we're going to send with it, we'll say number of times is going to be count, right? Now, before we do this, we're actually going to want to increment count so that it reflects correctly. Okay, so now this guy has sent it back. So now we can listen over here. Now we're going to do the same thing. Okay. So once again, once update button is sent, right, it's emitted from the server, we're listening for that because we have that open connection. So as soon as it hits here, what we want to do is update what's here. Okay, so let's create another one that says, let's see, we'll do an H2 that says button pressed, and then we'll create this little let's see, we'll equal num times span. Okay. Alright, so what we want to do, excuse me, is go access that span, right? So we're going to say num times .html or .text or whatever we want to do, right? Let's say text, and then inside that text we're going to say data.num times. Okay, now where did I get this?
What's that for?
No.
Form data?
Did you call back data? On
Yes. Right. So when this emits, we emitted this object. That object is in our callback as this data. So this num times is equal to the code that I said, or excuse me, the key that I put here. Okay. So let's see if it works. Let's go look at our server. Okay. We'll refresh. Now you go. Now let's open both of these. Okay, so we have Epic Button Game. We'll refresh. Now one thing that we need to fix, right? If I do this, now it changed to 7, but it should show right away, right? Okay. So how can we do that? All right. So how about whenever they, as soon as somebody logs on, excuse me, we're gonna go ahead and emit an update button. Once again, passing the number of times and the count. All right. So what this does is sends the number of times the button has been clicked when a user logs on. Okay. Cool. I'm going to go ahead and just comment that out for now. All right. All right, so it's 0, 0. So now, if I do this, now let's open up another browser. And when we log on, it should change to 8. If Firefox ever wants to open. Come on, baby. There we go. Oh, it did not work. Okay. There we go. It was just slow. It did work. Go slow computers. Woo-woo. Okay. All right, so now we need to do one more. Okay, so let's add a let's add another button here. So we're gonna need to change this. So I'm gonna say epic here, and actually, you know what? Let's do something else. We'll keep that button, and then we'll have a little H4 tag that says reset. Okay. Now we can just get that H4 tag. When we click, we're going to emit a, oh my goodness, reset count. Okay, let's go ahead and save that. We'll write another one. Once again, we're still inside of this io.sockets on, right? Because these are all, the socket has been connected the entire time. Reset count. So we'll say count is equal to 0. And then we'll just copy this guy and paste him in right there. Right. So the nice thing is we've only used this update button emit. That's basically the only thing that our client is listening for, right? And then we're just changing the data that's getting sent across. Okay? So let's check and make sure this works. So let's open that and that. Okay, so we refresh. Alright. So you can see that over here when I press it, it's being updated on both sides. If I hit reset, it goes back to 0. We can keep doing it as many times as we want. Yay! Such a fun game. Okay, let's see. Let's see if we missed anything else that we're supposed to do. Okay. Looks like that's it. So not super complex, but it's a good introduction into how sockets are working and how they're communicating with each other, right? So we notice that there's no form data or anything being sent across. It's all happening through here, okay? Now, the same thing is true on the other side, and this is what we'll do when we have the group chat, right? So I'm just going to say data is equal to I was pushed. Now, I'm not going to do anything with this data over here, but when I emit button click right here, right, over on this side, I also have this function data. So if I can console.log data dot, what did we call it? Data. That was smart. This guy right here, right? It's referring to this key that we're sending across. Okay, so if I come in here, I press the button, we'll look, and you can see that the data was I was pushed. All right. So that's how, same way that we're passing data here, where we're putting it inside of a dictionary and then sending it across. We do the same thing both ways, right? Because the cool thing about Mean is everything is in JSON format. So stuff that our client is sending to the server is in JSON format, stuff that the server is sending to us is in JSON format. It's again streamlining the right, we don't have to ever convert anything, it's all JSON. Okay, so once you get to the group chat, right, you'll be doing something like this, but instead of you filling in, instead of data, right, I might say something that looks like, you know, whatever ID, whatever I've named my input field, right? And that'll insert inside the data whatever I typed into that input field that was called name, right? So something like that, and I'm not going to do the rest of the assignment for you, but that's in essence how you could approach that. All right, any other questions? All right, sockets are super fun. Hopefully this gives you enough to go and knock out your group chat assignment. Thanks, guys.
Thank you.